Hello everyone, my name is Scalti, and this is Satisfactory. To kick off the fresh start with the release of 1.0, I want to welcome those to the game, and also my channel for a brief look back at where it all started. My first video for Satisfactory was a guide to creating a factory that produced 20 reinforced iron plates per minute using a vertical design solution that features what's become known as the sandwich layer. This is used to conceal the logistics of the factory system, which results in a more visually tidy appearance. From here, more guides were made to help new and experienced players alike with a strong focus on visual simplicity and efficiency. And after a time, I began a Let's Play, which featured long format content with narrative explanation and explaining math and design reasoning, and was a nice challenge to myself to push my creativity further as the factory systems became more complex. I want to express my gratitude to those who've supported my content that I've produced and aim to continue delivering the informative and quality content that kept you here. As we venture into a fresh start, my vision for this Let's Play is to be as educational as possible for new players coming to the game, but also concise with shorter length episodes, and will work to make that happen as often as I can. But with that, I hope you enjoy. So in terms of the starting location, I was initially thinking the grass fields. That's where I started when I first played the game back in Update 3. And to be fair, I also thought that each individual starting location was its own map in its entirety. For new players, it's all one map, it's just a matter of where you start on it. I did play through the rocky desert on my second attempt once I kind of hit a wall in the grassy fields attempt. And then eventually I did the northern forest, and then in the most recent Let's Play, we started in the Dune Desert. And I don't want to repeat that, even though I really enjoyed the nice open space in which to build. I do want to kind of be a little fresh, at least for the early game, and I was heavily considering the northern forest, but the challenge of there not being that many open areas makes it a little tedious to try and start, especially in the early game when you are limited in terms of your actual buildable objects that you have at your disposal. So rocky desert it was, and pretty good starting area for new players. It's pretty beneficial because there's a handful of pure iron nodes relatively nearby, decent amount of copper, and then also is in close proximity to the west side of the map, or the ocean on that side, which provides you ample access to water. But right away, starting out, just kind of getting my bearings and kind of understanding what's where, and I knew that there was a place that I wanted to head off to, and that's where we go. Got a little distracted, came across a new cave that I wasn't familiar with, and decided to something around and find out. And find out I did. Got a little bit of a jump scare here once I noticed that there was a spider, and I know that it's a little dark, probably hard to see, but there was definitely a little critter down there. Kind of panicked, ran off. And here we got to our starting area that I'm familiar with. There's 4 pure iron nodes around here, which makes it a pretty solid starting area. And took an opportunity to check out some of the new flora. I don't recall seeing these cactuses prior, at least, to be fair. I also have not been in the rocky desert in a very long time. But just taking a look around and kind of familiarizing myself with the general area and just kind of remembering what's where, and trying to figure out, all right, where do we get started? As I'm kind of walking around here, I figured it makes sense to kind of contextualize why I'm narrating over the footage and not actually narrating live. Stand by.
Samples of unknown alien species acquired. Their weaponized plasma is most likely stored as a stable chemical substance in an organ close to their mouth, and only turns volatile when exposed to one of the chemical elements in the air. Preserve the remains for later study.
So quick side note, one of the things that I really enjoyed is that they modified Ada's voice just a little bit. They gave it a little bit of a post-processing effect, which I thought was really nice, and added some nice character and flavor to it, if you will. Made it feel a little bit more futuristic, AI alive, which I think came out pretty great. But yeah, I'm narrating over this just because the overall footage for this episode was going to put it at over an hour and a half, and that's something that as I stated, I want to work on cutting it down best I can. So my attempt here is to kind of cut down that footage and keep this a little shorter to get through some of the more basic components. And one of the things that I kind of got spoiled on And I don't know how long it's been in the game. This might have been from 1.0 forward or maybe prior. Feel free to leave a comment below and let me know otherwise. But the ability to sneak up on the hatchers and take them out is a great
Samples of
welcome
unknown
change.
alien species acquired. It is unclear where on the flora or fauna spectrum it lies, but initial data suggests this might be a nest or an egg. Preserve the remains for later study.
So I wanted to take the opportunity, I know where the iron is, I know where the limestone is, but trying to remember where the copper was. I was like, all right, there's a node there, and there's a node there, which is, the second one's a pretty decent length away. But rolling up on this one, came to the realization that it's an impure node, only giving us 30 copper per minute, which is not the greatest, but it's also not the end of the world overall. And it would do what we needed it to do for us, at least in the early game. So next step, knowing where our basic resource nodes are, figuring out where to place the hub, and I found a decently open area between the pure iron nodes. So there's 2 back to the left and then 2 over to the right. I figured this was a nice middle ground in between and getting this all set up. Checking out the milestones just to refamiliarize myself with what's what, and come to the realization that logistics are going to be the #1 priority. Getting those set up because we are going to be tapping the pure iron node, so it makes sense to try and get this all sorted out as quickly as possible to make the best use of each of those nodes, or at least one of them. And then after that, figuring out that foundations are probably the next most important thing, and focusing on that. And after getting the hotbars sorted out with all of our items that we want to be using for building, getting a basic system in place for our iron, getting that all set up. And one of the things that I'm definitely missing are 1, Blade Runners, 2, the jetpack, just being able to get that elevation to build effectively. But one of the thoughts going into this initial setup is putting some ample space between the miner and the smelter, as we can see here. And this is just because we don't have access to it yet, but once we get the logistics unlocked, the intent is to put a splitter in place here, so that way we're making the most of our node and having room on both ends right there. But due to the fact that we don't have access to our logistics quite yet, I figured it made sense to tap into both of these iron nodes, so that way we can set up 2 production lines, one making our iron plates and the other making our iron rods, so that way we can get through that first milestone and unlock logistics. The next up was getting our power connected together to get the iron up and running and connecting everything out to our hub. And one of the things that I like to do, and I kind of revised a few things here and there, was just making sure that our power poles are not blocking where our smelters, our splitters, or our mergers would be. So I'm revising the placement here just to accommodate those once we get them unlocked here in the near future. And as I went ahead to get our copper nodes set up with some basic logistics system to produce some wire, I figured, hey, what the heck, let's grab some fuel while we're at it, since there is some vegetation up here. Then also took the opportunity, just because it's right here, grabbed our first power slug.
This semi-slug species seems to persist entirely through absorbing and storing energy from its surroundings. Studying this could provide new methods for improving fixed production line efficiency. Store this potential resource for later use.
But now that we have our copper and our iron system set up and also collected some fuel to burn for some power, went ahead and got that all sorted out, got everything connected up, and allowed us a couple expansion points, because the Mark 1 power poles only have those 4 connection points. Connected it up and started automating. And knowing that we were going to be needing power on the regular, I figured it made sense to set up a storage container, constructor, and then storage container, so that way we could automate the crafting of our biomass, just because that is a little bit more of an efficient burn instead of just burning the leaves outright. And got that all set up and just making sure that everything's running smoothly, and going back and setting recipes for things in which I forgot to set. But now that we have our power sorted out for a little while, I figured, all right, time to go back and spend some time exploring. Decided to reapproach the cave with my flashlight best I could, and came across some mycelia, which was pleasantly surprised about to be able to use in the future. And just checking out the cave slowly, a little nervously, overall. I don't know how big this cave is, but I came across the spider and was a little creeped out, and then I kind of realized, oh, it's stuck. Just kind of testing the limits here and seeing, like, all right, am I safe? Can I look around? Yep, he's not moving. All right. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm wrong. But after getting bold, taking the risk, realizing that I wasn't losing too much health, I decided to go ahead and take it out and continue to explore the cave. And I definitely think it was worth it because we came across our first summer sloop.
The Summer Sloop was named after Marie Somerville, co-founder of Fixit and head of its R&D department. There are many theories about the origin of this shape and why this symbol, mathematically resembling a Mobius strip, has found its way into both human and extraterrestrial culture. Thankfully, you don't need to know any of these theories to be a pioneer. Store it for later use. Fun fact: the planet you are on was found and named during a planet spotting event Marie hosted called Marie's Awesome Scientific Search of the Avant-Garde Exoplanets. Unknown chemical element collected. This non-metallic and multivalent element seems to be present only in a solid state and exhibits a most pungent smell. It is fortunate Fixit helmets are of such high quality. Store this potential resource for later use.
And with the extra time that we still have on our hands until we have enough materials to actually turn in for the milestone, I figured let's go do some more exploring, check out some crash sites, get some fauna drops, and definitely worth it. We found a good bit of resources around this. 47 reinforced iron plates, 50 steel beams, there's some even more reinforced iron plates. And this is really beneficial, and in hindsight, an amazing opportunity, if you will, just because the reinforced iron plates are used in the constructors, and not having to manually craft this many plates from rods and screws and whatnot definitely saved me a good bit of time in the early game, which I greatly appreciate. And thankfully, we didn't have to do anything to get this hard drive, so we already got the first one for free.
Damaged hard drive successfully acquired. All pioneers are contractually obliged to preserve and secure any recovered hard drives for future analysis, which may result in benefits to the Fixit mission. Speculation as to why there are crashed freighters in your Fixit designated zone is discouraged as specified in your contract.
That last part gives me serious Oblivion vibes with Tom Cruise. Love it. But we came across the second crash site and took out the fauna waiting for us and grabbed up all the various drops. And conveniently enough, we got rotors from the drop pod here, and going to check what we need for the hard drive to access it. Well, what do you know? It's rotors. So not free, but kind of free. So we got 2 early game hard drives to research them, and once we get that unlocked and available to use. And after a good bit of exploring, coming back with a pretty nice haul of various drop pod rewards, our hard drives, and various fauna drops, decided to put it all in the MAM for later use once we get access to the MAM to begin researching everything. And then also just double checking all of our constructors for their outputs to get all the materials that we need to get the first milestone unlocked. But real quick, after gathering up our wire, recalled that there is a crash site just north of our starting location, and saw the opportunity to check it out. And it's a little trepidatious. We got a couple of hatchers here, and we got one of the big spitters, which is a little precarious, especially because all we have is our simple taser. And did my best ability to kind of channel my inner snake and sneak around, take out the hatchers without being seen by the big guy. Only to kind of mess it up, thinking he kind of saw me there, but I feel like he just heard the noise from the hatcher, and so I just tried to do a little bit of ring around the rosy, and unfortunately didn't quite work. But I saw the opportunity. The most important thing at this point is take out the ads, just because the hatchers won't stop hatching, and made it a little bit easier to take this guy out. I was being a little cavalier with how much HP we have, thinking that I could just quickly poke him down, and overall was pretty successful. And the benefit of doing that too was just because the big guys drop a little bit more remains, which definitely put us in a little bit more of a better position, if you will. It's not game changing by any stretch of the imagination, but also took the opportunity, you know, again, picking up all the different drops and then checking out what we need for the hard drive to become accessible. And only needs 100 megawatts, so I was like, all right, we're going to save that for later. Then getting back to the MAM, just dropped off a couple of things that we didn't really need in our inventory quite yet. Then next step, unlock the milestone. So really nice to get the logistics unlocked, and from here we go ahead and revise our layouts just to be a little bit more efficient.
Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to save space and enhance the productivity of your factory. Fixit encourages you to consider investing in verticality when it comes to factory logistics. If you feel stressed by this complexity, imagine yourself on the shore of a vast and calm ocean. Breathe in. Visualize all the people relying on you. The sea is made of billions of faces, each staring at you with hope and tears in their eyes. Breathe out. Feel refreshed and focused on your duties.
Yeah, because that's totally how that works. I definitely like the tone and, you know, we'll call it characteristics that they've given Ada full release. Definitely appreciate it, and adds a good bit of humor to the game. Great job. And with our next milestone, knowing that we're going to unlock the foundations so that way we can actually start building things with a little bit more organization, I figured it makes sense. Let's go tap that limestone node with our splitter so that way we can make the most of our constructors. To be fair, we still need the Mark II logistics to really get the benefit from this pure limestone node, but wanted to go ahead and just prep the space for when we do eventually have the Mark II belts unlocked. And one of the things I kind of noticed here is that the straight build mode for belts does not play nice with vertical change or slight misalignment, but definitely one of the things that I definitely welcome about the build mode for belts, but definitely was a little bit of a finicky learning experience overall. But getting all that set up and getting everything automated, I knew that power was going to be more in demand, so definitely did a fuel run and made sure that we were definitely going to have the bandwidth and a little bit of extra overhead as we continue to slowly expand and work through our hub milestones. Shortly after returning with our fuel run, or from our fuel run, came back, we had enough concrete to unlock our foundations.
Milestone reached. Several new structures are now available for improving factory organization. Foundations provide a building grid, which makes it easier to manage placement of any structure. In the event that you are experiencing amnesia for all events prior to planetfall, be reassured that memories of beloved humans and/or animals would have only been distractions from your important mission.
Messed up, by the way, like nuts, but I like the fact that it kind of acknowledges, you know, you don't know who you were before you're here. Your only purpose is build and consume. I love it. But we're looking through the additional milestones at this point, just trying to figure out what's next. You know, ultimately we decide on Logistics Mark II just to make the best use of our pure nodes. But taking a look through everything else and just kind of figuring out, okay, what do we want to do after Logistics Mark II? And kind of like the previous playthrough, I came to the realization, and once again, that the jump pads just aren't in it for me. Like, I have no use case for them personally, and we'll just probably leave it completely untouched. But one of the benefits of our crash site exploration was the fact that we got so many reinforced iron plates without having to craft anything, which was super beneficial. And after a little bit of time, we had our resources built up to get Mark II logistics unlocked.
Milestone reached. Fixit would like to remind you of your contractual obligation towards efficiency. Recreational use of belts and lifts does not count towards work hours and will put you on the list. Stay efficient, don't disappoint, fix it.
But with our Mark II logistics unlocked and our extra reinforced iron plates that we have at our disposal, first and foremost, let's increase our throughput for being able to craft biomass at 100% efficiency as needed. And then the next important step was heading over to the limestone node, getting this up to 120 items per minute, which would ultimately give us 40 concrete per minute out of the system, because the ratio is 3 to 1, 3 limestone in, 1 concrete out. So if we know that we have 120 coming in, we know that we're going to have 40 coming out, which is definitely beneficial, because we're going to start using a good bit of foundations. So now that we have some basic factory building buildables unlocked, the first priority was to go back to our iron line, since we have the pure iron node, and revise the build out. So, using a Mark II belt and splitting it immediately just to kind of save on the reinforced iron plates, since we're not automating them, and setting it up with 4 smelters to smelt everything down. And then ultimately the system produced out 60 iron plates per minute, 20 rods per minute, and 40 screws per minute. The one thing about building in the early game that became very apparent as I'm trying to jump on top of the smelter here is I really miss the blade runners. Just the sheer, the jump height, the move speed, etc. The muscle memory from all my prior playtime and going back to square one again. It's definitely felt, for sure. And now that we have the whole system for our iron in place, the next step is routing power to everything. And again, the Mark I power poles are a little tedious to try and work with at the start, but setting it up correctly and just being mindful of kind of how you're going to be splitting everything up. Typically it's one connection from the prior step in the process, and then plug that into 2 items. So for example, like the first step of the process is our miner, the second step is our smelter. So we connect the 1 power pole into 2 power poles each in between our 4 smelters, connect the 2 smelters up, then we take that what would be 4th remaining connection and running that into the next step of the process, which are our constructors, making plates, screws, and rods. And with increasing our iron factory and knowing that we expanded the limestone to run at a higher efficiency, we definitely wanted to revise our power structure and kind of set that up with a little bit more organization. So setting up 6 biomass burners and getting that all automated. So all we had to do is drop our leaves into the storage container and then have that feed into the constructor, which then feeds into our biomass burners, and making sure that we had a decent amount of connection points at various locations in this little grid here. Last but not least, getting our copper line set up. It's not 100% efficient, again, just because it is an impure node, so we're only getting the 30 copper out per minute. The initial constructors are efficient. It's 15 ingots in per minute and 30 wire out per minute. But the cable, for example, is 60 wire in and 30 cable out. So we're not producing the cable at 100% efficiency, but automating it for 50% is better than automating it for 0%. And heading back to the hub, up in the upper right, you can kind of see the resource sync program is our next milestone. And technically, people might be more inclined to say to utilize the part assembly, so that way they get access to the assembler and being able to automate rotor, modular frame, smart plating, etc. But knowing that I wanted to kind of save that build for once we have a little bit more access to some actual factory relevant things, stylized in the way in which I want, I figured it made sense. Let's grab the awesome sink and the awesome shop and sync some of the things that we found from crash sites to get some early game coupons to then unlock buildables, and try and start off on we'll call it the right foot, if you will, or at least put us a little ahead so that way the factories that we start building early will last a little bit longer and requires a little less iteration. And churning through the milestones more, we got the resource sync bonus program unlocked.
Milestone reached. You have been given access to the anti-waste effort for stress testing of materials on Exoplanet's bonus program, also known as Awesome. Your awesome input allows Fixit to comprehend our amazing universe more clearly. In appreciation of this, we have generously set up an internal, closed economy with exclusive rewards and currency. Directing parts of varying quantity and complexity into the Awesome Resource Sink will grant Fixit coupons. These coupons can be redeemed in the Awesome Shop for highly desirable items such as new foundations, walls, factory attachments, cosmetics, parts, and more. Next time you have additional resources, just remember to go that extra kilometer. Go awesome.
Oh, well, after that long explanation, I was taking a quick look through the Awesome Shop and hovered over the concrete foundations, or the concrete finish for foundations, which I find pretty valuable. I think it's probably one of the most important early game purchases you can make, just because it simplifies the foundation material cost to just concrete. But overall, it's also just a nice clean finish. But immediately wanted to get the Awesome Sink set up and going through our MAM, pulling out the various drops that we got from our drop pod crash sites, and wanted to get these synced just to get some early coupons at our disposal, so that way we can unlock a handful of things out of the Awesome Shop. And with our new finish, I went around to all the existing foundations and swapped everything out to that concrete. And one of the benefits of this finish that I really enjoy, if we take a look at our color customizer here, we can go in and edit our default swatch. So white is the primary, there is no real secondary that's applied. But we can see that if we do apply a color, we get this two-tone solution where the interior is a little lighter than the exterior. Then also, this works on a sliding scale of 0 to 1 for the saturation and brightness. The top one is the hue, which is 255 or 360. But what we can do is we can actually manually type in values on the far right side. So what we can do is we can actually override the saturation and the brightness value to get a different result. So here we have our just standard black. As we can see, it's just more of a dark gray. But if we go in and manually type in -10, it's jet black, which is beautiful. It's nice and clean. It's a little dark overall and makes it a little complicated to build on. And also for the aesthetic or the visual theme that I'm going for in this playthrough, white's where it's at. And it just looks super clean. And if done right, when you're actually building your factory, it can look super futuristic and sci-fi and have a really nice juxtaposition against the environment of the planet. And messing with some of the default colors for our factory, just taking a look at everything. One of the things that I came to realize is that there's a matte default and shiny finish, but just trying to figure out kind of what looks good here and seeing just how much impact manually typing in those values has. And so it's just kind of experimenting. Checked out the red, a little nod to Kibitz here. I'm assuming he's probably going to go with red again in his 1.0 playthrough. One of the things when you do override the value for saturation, for example, you can see that I'm not hitting all of the actual colors on the color spectrum. I'm hitting just the big ones, or the default ones, which would be red, green, and blue. But you can see that we get a really nice rich blue out of it. It almost is like bordering on purple a little bit. And I was thinking, all right, can we change the brightness to have some type of impact on that? But ultimately, the main thing that I value most for the color sliders in terms of manually overriding the color would be the foundations, but the color applied to the machinery itself is applied pretty well. And trying to figure out kind of like what's the visual difference between the matte and shiny. It's on most colors a little challenging to really discern, but I did notice that when you're actually using matte, for instance, on black, It's black. There's not a lot of reflectivity to it on the angles, but maybe something we'll mess with in the future. And as we kind of saw momentarily as we were going through the awesome shop, we do have the different paint finishes. I don't know if those apply to machinery or if that just applies to other stuff. I did see, like in the 1.0. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't 1.0, but it was in one of the reveal videos of some of the late game tech coming out in 1.0 that they applied the bronze looking finish to the pipes. So that was pretty great. But here you can see, the shininess of that black. You see the reflectivity of the sunlight. And then going back in and switching that to matte, there is pretty much no reflection. And it's almost like a felt or Fanta, I think it's called Fanta black, the blackest black and whatnot that reflects like less than 1% of any light that hits it. The next milestone on the docket is the obstacle clearing, so that way we get access to the chainsaw and also the solid biofuel.
Milestone reached. Solid biofuel, created from any biomass, ensures maximum efficiency of biomass burners. To aid in biofuel production, the chainsaw allows for the removal of tougher wood and coral foliage. Additionally, your pocket dimension has been inflated to increase inventory size. Inspirational note: will you be the Fix-It Employee of the Month? You could be if you construct, automate, explore and exploit by eliminating all obstacles to efficiency. This isn't just fun, it's contractually mandated fun.
But yeah, being able to get access to the solid biofuel, super beneficial in the early game. It burns at 4 per minute, and that's only if you're at maximum demand for your factory system or your power system, if you will. One of the additional great changes in 1.0 for the chainsaw is the option to switch modes, where you can either cut down an area of obstacles or items, or just a singular item, so that way you can effectively manicure your environment. But gratefully that we also have the Mark II belts unlocked, so that way we can revise our power input system to make the most of that Mark II belt, and being able to automate the process from leaves into biomass into our solid biofuel, which then feeds into all of our biofuel winners. And last but certainly not least, just wrapping up some manually crafting of screws to unlock our part assembly.
Milestone reached. The assembler can produce more complex parts, including the first project part, smart plating, which is crucial for initiating project assembly. Project parts must be delivered to the space elevator. By completing your contracted duties as part of project assembly, you will definitely be helping achieve Fix-It Company goals without any other ulterior motive. Note: humans cannot craft project parts. Do not worry about your inadequate crafting skill when compared to an assembler. Fix-It cherishes your innate human abilities, such as walking, striking objects, and commodifying natural resources.
A point that I would like to make is that it respects our, basic functionality, as in we are a physical entity that can manipulate things around us. My speculation based on that comment is the fact that we're not actually working for human civilization. We're working for an alien civilization that cannot do the things that they need us to do because they don't have the physical means in which to do so. But took the opportunity again, just grab some more fuel, making sure we're always tip top, and always have that sorted out. And the next step at this point, build the space elevator. After a bit of manual crafting, we got all the items that we need and trying to figure out the best place to put it, because it's pretty big overall. But I figure, hey, we got the foundations. Let's go ahead and get everything onto a shared, because we're using the world grid for all of our placement and everything. So why not get some foundations in place and actually put it on foundations to keep. But kind of noted, there's at least for 1.0, there's like a weird light change or light shift as the time of day passes, which I thought was kind of interesting. But you know, just here taking a stab at actually being able to build the elevator, not fully knowing what the width is, but I think it's 6x6 it ended up being overall. And one of the things that I do kind of miss are my mods. For one, Smart is a great mod, and two, then not a lot. Was it Permaday is also great, just due to the nature of recording content. But figured it made sense. Let's build a lookout tower, get to the top, and kind of get an idea of the scale of the space elevator, and just in case it doesn't actually fit on the foundations that we have. Such glory. Love it. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. End of episode 1. I feel like we made good progress for this, especially trying to cut this down to be as close to 30 minutes as possible was a little challenging. I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes of recorded content to try and wean down. So leave a comment below if you feel I did a pretty good job, or if you have any feedback on the editing. If you're new to the game, new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy the game. I hope you enjoy the content. If you did, feel free to leave a like. If you want to see more content in the future, be sure to subscribe. I'll be doing Let's Play videos, and I will also be working on guides as we continue on. And with all that being said, I'm excited. I hope you're all excited, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.